Hello and welcome to 24 panels per second. Nikki can't hear me. What's happened?
Sorry, I had to do it. But I didn't want to cut you off.
I wondered what I was like, not technical problems already. We're 4 seconds in.
Sorry, we had to do it. We had to do it.
That was brilliant. Thank you, Nikki. This is Nikki. I'm Paul. Welcome to 24 panels per second. We're talking about, as you might have guessed from that short musical blast, that will in no way infringe anyone's copyright whatsoever. We are going to be talking about the series Peacemaker that was on HBO Max, is now on Now TV in the UK, or Sky TV in the UK. We are, of course, coming to this very, very late because it was shown in the US, like I think
ages ago. It was
like last year, wasn't it?
I've been like waiting for you forever.
Yeah. So it was shown in the US, I think, at the end of 2021.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Or early 2022. They didn't give us any UK release date or any idea of what channel it would be on, although Sky has a deal with HBO Max and HBO to show their new TV shows. And then eventually, once the entire series had played in the US, they put it out, I think, an episode at a time over here. So we kind of had to wait for it to finish. And then a lot was happening in my life and a lot happening in yours, and we just couldn't find the time to do it. So, yes, one could almost say it's kind of pointless, but we don't care.
But it's a great show.
It is a great show, and we do. And I think it's important to talk about it just because of where it kind of sits in that whole DC entertainment kind of universe, and just because of its tone and style. Did you? I presume you went to see the Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah, and I always appreciate you looping me on these ones because it's more along the tone of my my pirate talk.
Yeah.
And just the tone of the stuff that I'm in. You know, I'm not a fan of the comedy stuff and like the PG superhero movies. This is like right in the pocket for me. Yeah. So Suicide Squad's always, I'm gonna go see them. And I love that second one too.
Yeah, I mean, I hated the first Suicide Squad, like with a passion. Like I really hated it. And I remember Liz wrote this amazing kind of takedown of it that to this day sits as one of my favorite bits of writing on comic book films. That was really awesome. And it wasn't even that much of a takedown. No, it wasn't like that. It was more kind of a what if of you know, what this could have been and then what it was. And then when the sequel come reboot came along, you know, all of that was blown out the water, and it was a much better kind of tonal fit for the Suicide Squad. Although if you read, like, I don't know if you've ever read any Suicide Squad.
No, so I haven't touched it.
So it's like it's been around since the Silver Age. And then in the 80s, it was kind of reinvented in about 86, 87, sort of post-Crisis on Infinite Earth. So they pop up in there first, I believe. Mm-hmm. Or no, sorry, Legends, which is the sequel to. Sorry, I'm going to get a bit nerdy now.
No, do it. I'm really interested in this, actually.
Legends was the sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths, as I remember, and the Suicide Squad makes its first appearance in that series. So the Suicide Squad is like Deadshot and no Harley because she was years away, and a bunch of other characters. It is Amanda Waller running this Task Force X out of Belle Reve prison, as you see in the movies, and drafting in these kind of supervillains, like, well, not even supervillains really. So Deadshot, who was like a Batman villain, Captain Boomerang, who is an out and out like racist, misogynist pig, and like a bunch of others, like Bronze Tiger, all these kind of very questionable characters. And And Peacemaker was not on that team. And I'm not sure if and when Peacemaker was ever on the team. And there aren't actually that many Peacemaker comics, to the best of my knowledge. Like, I've got one series called Showcase where Peacemaker has got a story that's like 8 pages an issue, over 12 issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a Peacemaker comic earlier this year, like a one-shot. But there actually, to the best of my knowledge, there aren't that many Peacemaker comics.
Because I had been digging. I wanted to really, especially after watching this, I'm like, I gotta dig into this, and I couldn't find anything to really just like appear. I mean, he's just John Cena's a superhero, period. So might as well just slam that helmet on him and call it a day. Yeah,
but that is it. Like, there just aren't that many Peacemaker comics around, and he was a character that I believe was kind of brought in. So DC brought a comic company called Charlton, or brought the characters from Charlton Comics back in the early 80s. And that's where Watchmen comes from. And in fact, Peacemaker was supposed to be in Watchmen. So all the characters, like Blue Beetle, all those characters were supposed to be the characters that were in Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' Watchmen. But once they figured out what Alan Moore wanted to do with those characters and, kill them all off, they were like, oh, no. No, we want to use these characters. So,
interesting.
You're going to have to find, you're going to have to make up your own characters. And it's partly where the bone of contention and all the legal stuff from Watchmen springs from, is that Alan Moore created those characters specifically for that series. Whereas previously he was going to use Blue Beetle and Captain Atom and Peacemaker. I think Peacemaker is actually supposed to be the comedian, I think.
Okay.
So that's the allegory. And in a way, James Gunn's version of Peacemaker is a lot closer to that than to anything else. And, it's part of that weird kind of intertwined comics history that they have that, now brings us to this.
That's so
but he
cool.
was never a major character. Like, never a major character. And I think writing him the way he's written in the show and the film would probably propel him up the ladder a bit, but you wouldn't reach that sort of super wide comics audience because it would be too graphic and too kind of too violent and too too kind of gross.
That's more in like my realm. Like, I love Deadpool. Like, I like the jokes that he made. Like, it's just there's that vibe with it, and I'll always gravitate to that over anything in the Marvel universe. And but this is like, and I saw a lot of parallels and with that kind of tone with the show, like Vigilante's character. I want more Vigilante. Great character.
So Vigilante is a long-standing character in the DC universe. Adrian Chase, I believe it is, and he has been around for quite a while. And funny enough, Alan Moore has written a tiny little bit of Vigilante. And I've not read much Vigilante in my life, if any. Because again, I don't think there's been like the critical hit, like the big hit Vigilante series. And also, I don't know who would be burning to write that series. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure someone is burning to write the major Aquaman, modern Aquaman series. I'm sure someone is burning to write the major critical Harley Quinn series that will change the universe.
I got the perfect person too. I just can't think of his name right now. He did write the Deadpool ones. I think he wrote the Dead Presidents one. He was also in the Devil's Rejects.
I know
you know who I'm talking about.
I do know
Passion.
Yeah.
David?
No. Oh God, I can't remember his name. But I know who you mean. Is he the guy who was like the ex-wrestler?
No, I don't think he's not a wrestler.
Because there was a guy who was like an ex-wrestler who wrote some Deadpool, right? I think.
Oh, I don't think it was him. Brian Potion.
Yes.
Brian. Yeah. That guy is so funny. Those are my favorite Deadpool comics, were the ones that he touched. And when I found out, like, put the connection together, because obviously I love the Rob Zombie Devil's Rejects.
Yeah, he's the comedian, right? He's like a big guy with a beard.
Yeah,
I know you mean.
So funny. I think that would be if I could have like my fantasy fulfilled with the Vigilante movie. Like if there was just gonna be a one-off, like he would be writing it.
Well, hopefully someone from DC will be watching this, and you'll get your wish.
Please, God, please.
Yeah, but I mean, this kind of post Suicide Squad, like, I loved that makeup of that team and the way that movie was done, and like that film really kind of blew me away.
Yeah,
and it kind of fulfilled one of the critical things for me in movies is that, you know, it's got to be rewatchable, not just, and it's the same with comics, like they've got to be rereadable, not just readable. And that's what makes me kind of get rid of comics now is, okay, I've read this and I've enjoyed it, but am I going to reread it? And if I'm not going to reread it, it's got to go.
Yeah.
Because it's just taking up space. And this is definitely a series that I would rewatch.
Yeah.
Like I knew it was going to be quite kind of ribald and quite kind of disgusting and quite kind of violent, but I didn't know to what extent. Like
the first 3 seconds in, you're just like, okay, now I know what I'm in for. This is gonna be off the rails, crazy.
Yeah,
good.
And you know, like some of the humor was so kind of on the edge of what would be considered acceptable for a comic book adaptation, right? I mean, and uncomfortably so. And it's things like, in looking at it, I found it to be kind of a sort of almost like a tour through the pressure points on the American identity right now. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
Like,
I 100% agree with that. Yeah.
And but in crazy ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I mean, just the uncomfortability of Adrian Chase when they're like, you know, when he's hiding out in the back of the diner and the guy catches him talking to himself. And then he starts talking about his imaginary girlfriend, and he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get an abortion. Like, do you want to come? And he's just like, what?
No, I do not want to come to your abortion. Yeah, and it's like such an intense thing to just like uncover. Like there's so many things. Like even Peacemaker's father calling Sophie's character chopsticks. Yeah. And then she yells at him fork. He's like, better. Why don't you call him a spoon? But like it's so, and then even like the TV snippets, like you know, again, like no political affiliation, what's right or wrong, but like it was very pointed as far as what kind of, you know, that was directed towards a Fox News type of broadcast, and then where they were in the prison, and you know, like this whole, it was. So I have a problem with that in the majority of movies that I see, or films. However, this wasn't like bam, bam, let me beat you on the head with my opinion. It was subtly just sprinkled in to let people interpret it however they wanted to.
Sure. And I actually think the interesting thing about the politics of the show is that its politics are actually really liberal. Mm-hmm. They're very left, which is fine by me. You know, I'm leftist. You know, but I think what it did was address the kind of difficulty of being the white male in today's world, the older white male, which is completely, and I'm not saying, oh, you know, poor us older white males.
No,
Look
and
at
not
the
at
struggle
all.
we're going through, because we're not. But I mean,
it's finding your place in the world now. Like there is a discovery. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's adjusting your temperament and behavior to fit the kind of subdivisions that we're now finding in society. And
100% sweet cheeks. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
And I think that is a really difficult thing to sweet cheeks. Yeah. I mean, that was great.
Yeah, that's so
was like,
and didn't know what he's not a malicious, but he has to adapt to how things are now. Yeah.
And I think that in a way, part of the show is what's it like if you don't grow up? Do you know what I mean? If your development as an adult is, I mean this in the non kind of offensive way, but retarded. You know, if your development of an adult is drastically slowed down or even starts going backwards, what is that going to be like when you come out into a world that suddenly favors accountability and, you know, reasoning and blame and things like that, and sort of social justice? How are you going to cope with that? And the chances are you're really not, but you do see that struggle within Peacemaker to kind of go, and for him it becomes like a simple equation, which is I don't want to kill people anymore. But you know, for everyone around him, he still wants to stay the same dick. You know,
100%. But like, there are so many things. Because I was breezing by it again because I loved it and I wanted to make sure I was a little more fresh for the podcast. But like, just thinking like the characters that he has in there. Brooke's character, she's a Black woman, lesbian. You know, and there are times where there are things brought up. You know, I don't mind if he wants to, or even the Aquaman scene. I don't mind if he wants to have sex with a man. I don't care if he wants to have sex with women, but I draw the line at fish. Like he's kind of woke, but like not woke enough. Like, you know, like I think he even made a comment too, like, you know, like as far as addressing it, like to each his own. Like, and then, you know, you have like those weird moments. It's like, well, we'll get more woke on this. You know, like keep moving it over, you know?
Yeah. And it is about what it's like to have to move into that direction of things and be kind of, and also just the point where common sense meets, you know, different kind of politics. And it's just like, well, this doesn't make sense to me because of this, and this. And I think that he does not have an adult's grasp on the world. What he has is a teenager's grasp on the world. And in a way, I think it's kind of the same as the argument for like why Batman sides up with teenage sidekicks. It's because you can make an argument and go, okay, his life was essentially stopped at age 12. And I think Christopher's life was essentially stopped at the moment his brother died.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, is he was never then allowed to grow and expand beyond that as an intellect, you know, as an intellectual being. And although, his body expanded and his abilities and talents expanded, you know, it's just a shame that talent is, you know, murder and violence and all that kind of stuff. His intellectual growth didn't. It stopped. And, you know, he's been kept that way by this horrible man. Just with the hair that I'm kind of modeling today. My hair's gonna be, I really need it.
No, I really need
a haircut. But yeah, Robert Patrick as like his dad was fantastic, and he's a completely horrible, objectionable character, but
but Peacemaker wants to please him still. He still wants to, you know, be loved or just praised by him, and you just can't get that at all. And it's so funny to see that dynamic. Like he's just like this big, strong guy. Like from just looking at him, you'd be like intimidated, but like minus the costume.
Yeah.
But and then, you know, and it's like so funny because the costume detracts from it. His interactions with his father detracts from that. His team even takes away from that. It's like you see him with the team and it's like everybody thinks he's a dumbass, you know. It's just such a funny parallel to have like this intense, like ripped even the custodian at the hospital even said it. You can't be a superhero. You're too jacked. Like everybody's has a gymnast form. It's a total deviation from the norm.
Yeah,
I think it's a cool thing to bring in there.
And he's like, for me, the core of the thing, in looking back at it, the core of it became, if you look at Christopher, and then you look at I'm going to get her name wrong, Adadeo, you know, Danielle,
is it Brooks?
Yes, yeah.
I had my notes.
And Harcourt, Economos,
Diebeard,
yeah,
and Clemson, Murrah.
So, man, if you look at all those characters, I think what the core of it comes down to is, for everyone, an inability to connect, and then therefore the core actually becomes loneliness. And you're dealing with a bunch of people who are at their heart very, very lonely and want to be loved. Even like Economos, where he goes through that thing at the end where he it's like, oh my God. Actually, yes, I do dye my beard, and here's why. And that's sort of
his confessions.
Yeah. Economos is also a character who pops up in the comics. Like he's really? Like so he's the warden of the prison where so he actually features quite heavily, but he is a sort of background character, you know. But he's the warden of Belle Reve, but here he's kind of just the operative. And Mern is a lonely figure who, you know, who was ostracized from his own species. You know, he's completely kind of ostracized. And I loved that sort of theme running through it. I thought that was great.
Yeah, me too.
And I think it's interesting to see that sort of comedy where basically, to a certain degree, everyone's a twat.
Yeah. I literally,
especially
not in those exact words, but I have that. A whole series of dumbasses doing stupid things,
with the exception of the two most capable people, or three most capable people, Economos, Harcourt, and Adebayo. Like they're Brooks, they're all kind of they're fine, except they're surrounded by morons. And you know, people who have like these nefarious kind of plans. And I like the fact that even, like, essentially it does kind of replay the Suicide Squad movie. Like, it, you know, it is essentially almost a not entirely dissimilar plot. You've got the big thing, the creature at the end, and you know. I love Economos. You
guys are really creative with your names,
but also like Economos' like reaction, no more kaijus. he's like had enough from the giant starfish walking across the Gorto Mountain. He's done with that. But I think that I forgot where I was going with this. I completely got. But there's like this kind of vein running through it of just inability to cope with life in any kind of normal fashion whatsoever. And to cope with the basics of life. It's just like, oh yeah, so I can use any one of these weapons. I can kill this person, kill that person quite easily. I can kill all these people, but I can't, you know, don't ask me to sort of balance my checkbook or do my grocery shopping or eat healthily, or do any of that stuff, because I'm not going to be able to do it. and don't ask me to interact with you. Yeah, I'm not an adult. I'm not an adult in any kind of measurable sense.
Yeah. So funny.
That anyone else would be an adult. I'm sorry if like people have tuned into this and you were expecting like I was just
cue the music again.
just laughing at what things that happen in the show, but it's weird how it kind of sticks with you in that way. Like I just don't think there's any kind of idea that these people have of what life is actually like. Do you know what I mean? Like
like they definitely, and that's what I think makes the team so good too. Like they need each other to just get through the day. Like, you know, like you'll think about like certain pieces of it, you know, where Harcourt was alone going to that bar.
Yeah.
Fully aware of her surroundings. Like she knew she was getting clocked by Peacemaker, but like she had that interaction. But like while she walked out on him, you know, maybe it was still like fine that he was in that situation because like it was her team, you know, like
sure.
You know, like, and then
I
they kind of grow together, you know.
I see where you're kind of going. I think I lost you for a second there.
Oh no, I'm here. I just stopped. I was just like thinking about it, but like I think I think they do really, you know, you could see each episode how much more comfortable they get with each other, and you know they accept each other's, you know, Peacemaker's stupid comments and like, you know, like, oh my god, there's just like so many you could just like pull from, but as far as just like calling him out on it, moving on, you know, and they're just in the middle of this thing. They're not going to stop. They're just going to call it out, move. And it was so quick and funny and just like everybody's interactions. I thought the whole thing was really well done.
Yeah. And I like the way it kind of tackled that stuff. And again, through the modern kind of psyche, you know, her whole thing, which is, look, I'm just in a bar having a drink. And this is something that I have to put up with no matter where I go. And, you know, if I want to have a drink alone, this is what I have to fucking endure.
Yeah.
Which is a bunch of idiots coming up and making stupid comments. And I love the way it kind of tackles that stuff. And it does tackle the thing of male loneliness. And I'm not talking about, you know, man to woman. I'm talking about a sense of what it's like if you're an older person trying to make friends is like excruciating. You can't really. It is a tough thing to do.
Yeah, you're gonna make them at work. Yeah, that's what we make our friends now.
Yeah, totally. And that's what they do is they make friends with people at work. And then you have this other, you know, idiot coming from outside who's equally kind of, although younger than everyone else, nearly, apart from Brooks or Adebayo, he's kind of, you know, equally fucking retarded in his interactions with other people. Like it's like, but people are lonely and they're looking for friends, and I think it's interesting how the show tackles that and addresses that and goes, actually, no, this is the problem: is that ultimately loneliness is going to be the killer, and that's probably the thing you should tackle. And then within that, compassion, you know, just a bit of, and I think that comes from Chris, like I don't want to kill people anymore. It's like a person developing compassion for the first time and having to be kind of caring.
No, 100%. Yeah.
You know, and also the thing of I don't want to kill kids. That isn't just I think it's wrong to kill children. It's just like, well, I've actually already killed a child once in my life, and that was my sibling, and you know, you know, he's now having to deal with it. You
have to cope with it. Yeah, you got to cope with it and change your path. It's really, you know, for as much comedy that's in there, and again, I thought I laughed my ass off the whole series. Like this was such a perfect fit for my personality anyway. But
I know as soon as I watched it, it was just like, I can see why Nikki was keen to do this.
I'm like, this is coming from a person that, again, WWE. I was so sick of the superhero John Cena. This is like the perfect ideal role for him, because he could be like that but funny at the same, like it's just melding. It just strips out that PG and just like it's a great blend. But as far as like the connections with people, you have the hardcore thing, and like he's into her, but she's giving him the vibes, and he's learning to respect those boundaries. The dye-beard guy, like that's the guy he picks on, like, and how he kind of changes along the series, with even his interactions with him. Brooks, he was more, he had more of a connection with her, and then Vigilante, clearly doesn't want to hang out with him, but he's sort of his buddy,
how he has to kind of put up with, and we've all got friends like that. But you also have to, I think we also have to all kind of acknowledge, actually that person is going through some form of loneliness and needs compassion, and so I'm sure I've been that person for other people. Do you know what I mean? Like I completely kind of cop to that. I'm quite annoying.
I don't think you're annoying. But yeah, like it hits on so many, for something that's like pow in your face. Yeah. It's actually very smart, I think, in how it tackles different situations, wokeness, and like it's just like it just runs a huge range of like the touch points of the show.
Yeah, and it comes down on the side of those things, but it tackles them in an interesting way, I think.
Yeah.
And it, like, that really surprised me. It's just like, you kind of, and some of it is quite on the nose. Like, it is very, like, when they're trying to sort of adjust the way he talks to people and his language and stuff, it's just like, this is very on the fucking nose. Like, calm. But there's nothing wrong with that, because I think sometimes people do need the very blunt instrument to just go, bump. No, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And here's why it's wrong. And I think it does kind of make an effort to kind of explain, no, you understand why this is wrong, right? Why you can't say this.
Yeah. And they don't do it with everything, though. There are certain things that they do, and there's certain things that they don't. And I think it's like very tastefully done. Like there's so many things, we're not even going to touch it. Like in the Star Wars stuff, that I'm like, I can't even watch it. It's just like, stop, like, pulling politics. We're in a space world right now, like, because it's done in like a very
I think. Sorry, no, go on.
Yeah, and it's not even just Star Wars. There's so many other things, and it's just like, it almost like sucks me out when you try to like just beat me over the head with something, versus just like, let it naturally just work its way into the film. You don't have to just like, people are smart enough to pick up on it. Like, there are certain things that can be called out, but you don't need to do with everything. Like, let people interpret and grow as they're watching it as well.
Yeah, I think part of that is the adjustment of the audience. So as those become the audience's interests, because you kind of want to capture that audience.
Yeah.
And whether or not you want to do that for a financial reason, which, I believe a lot of the corporate stuff is kind of behind. It's like, you want the dollar, and that's fine. That's what you're about, and that's how you keep people employed, and that's how you keep making this stuff. Or you want to do it because you want to engage with that audience on a kind of debate level, or a kind of comfort level. There, I think, because there is a race to capture that audience now.
Yeah.
That some of the stuff can go a little bit in the wrong direction. I have my politics, you have yours. They might be different, but I think somewhere in the middle we find an area where we're comfortable, or we just avoid it. Which is fine.
Yeah, one or the other.
Equally fine. It is equally fine, because we're not out there fucking trying to shoot each other or
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, 100%. Yeah. You find a
I-
middle ground and move together in the right direction. That's
yeah. And I genuinely believe that things do gradually move in the right direction anyway, because I don't think that a society always tends towards violence or tends towards division. And I think you've also got to look at who's winning out of, if there's division in a society, who kind of is winning out of that, who's making the money is the crucial thing. And usually there is, like, a lot of divisions are completely artificial, or they're very small and they get expanded by people who have these kind of weird agendas to kind of make something out of that division. And I think that's largely what Brexit was about, and in the UK, and I think there's a lot of contentious issues in the US around gun culture, which in a way, Peacemaker as a show kind of both celebrates and admonishes.
Yeah,
like it's
crazy. Like, again, I think it's really smart and how it's done, because it's presenting it and like just putting it out there.
Yeah, and I just, again, as with you, I'm just fascinated by the way they managed to achieve this stuff and sort of stealth it. I mean, it's not even stealth really sometimes, but stealth it all in and get it in. And I'm really glad that you wanted to do this, because I would have been sad not to be able to talk about it on this kind of level, you know. And but it was a lot of fun, and it just definitely blew me away.
Can we, for a second, just touch that? I mean, we can't finish this podcast without talking about Eagly. I just needed to say the name on the podcast. Like,
the dumbest pet ever.
Was that part? Do you know if that was part of the comic? Like, or was this just some bullshit?
No, it's not. I guarantee you, it's not. It's
really
not part of the comic. Yeah, it's something that's been totally kind of
best decision ever.
Yeah. And I mean, look, you can argue that the character is kind of an allegory for Captain America in a way, and his version of being frozen in time is his political outlook and his sexual outlook and his his kind of because he's running around, and he just wants to bang like a teenager.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And he picks the most
oh my Christ,
sort of almost trailer trash, as he put, what does he call it? Hard body. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot the name.
And like all the kind of hair bands that he loves.
Wait, I love how he stole all her records. Like there's this shit going down, and they're like, "Get out of the building." He's like, "I'm just collecting a few things." Literally, hobo bags up, like records and just shit he likes in our house, and just throws it over his sash. I gotta say though, that fall down, I almost peed my pants laughing. That was the funniest thing. And I'm so happy that was the first episode, because it was just like, I knew that was going to be my new favorite TV show. Yeah. From there on.
It was just amazing. And watching him just smash all this, like throw all this stuff out. Like I really wanted, when he got home and, and he puts on the record, I really wanted that when he took the record out, that it was just in pieces. But it was just like, no fucking way did that survive you just going smash.
He just wanted to play his Cinderella album. Oh God. And even the other part going, that first episode was so funny. Yeah. Where he's like, I gotta tie you guys up to make it more real. Then he's talking about this woman's, he even called it a negligee. Like I would have never said that. As a woman, I would have never called it that. But he just very specifically says it. And then the husband was like flipping out. It was so funny. It was,
and she ends up sleeping with him, which I think is just like,
it's great.
That was horrible. Like
I just
really felt sorry for the husband.
Well, he didn't know she liked Cinderella, so he should have been paying attention.
But also the bands, you know, Nikki, I had to look up some of those bands to see if they were real. Like,
oh, really?
Like I genuinely, like I know I'm of the age where I would have caught some of that music, but I guess I'm not as musically
Oh, okay.
developed as
Oh,
I
that's
should be.
so
But
fun.
I
Yeah.
literally had to sit there with my phone, going through that scene and looking up to see if some of those bands were actually real bands, or if they'd just got a bunch of hair boys and done the
Yeah.
makeup and the
Yeah, that's a
because
real thing.
and it's
Like
weird.
glam rock.
Like the glam rock thing, like it's very weird because like in at least in the UK, the glam rock thing was, and I suspect to a certain degree in the US, you know, when you get to people like Bowie and Iggy Pop and all that kind of stuff, that stuff was quite progressive and transgressive, and you know, it bridged sexuality and like because you know, none of those guys were straight. They were all kind of, you know, bisexual or whatever. Like, and it's kind of, when you look at like, then you know, you get to like Christopher and then Adrian, you know, Vigilante, and it's just like, I wonder.
Yeah, but like what's funny is, okay, so you actually called out some interesting things. Yeah, Bowie and Iggy Pop, they were on that direction. Glam rock was over masculine, like guys that just wanted to F everything in sight, and like they were mostly they're straight. And it was like this huge following of it. Like even Motley Crue is like, it's hard, but like they were dressing up in like heels and like, oh, and I just saw Kiss for the first time in a couple of weeks ago too. It was first off.
Oh yeah, and Gene Simmons has got such a reputation for
they're in like platform boots. They're hopping all over the place. Yeah.
And respectfully, because I know you've worked in this arena, but if you look at that and then look at professional wrestling, they're not a million miles away.
No,
they're not a million miles away in terms of that sort of performance, glamour angle. Like it's not. There is kind of a straight or not line that you can draw, I think, from those things, and that kind of is interesting to me on a kind of analytical level. Like it's just like,
oh you know. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, okay, so even just my previous activities in the past couple of weeks, I went to a Kiss concert, then I went to a Boulay Brothers Dragula, so it's a horror drag show. Again, two totally different realms, but like there is a middle ground there. And I've been to plenty of wrestling shows as well. Like, you know, people still go to those events. Well, not go to those events. Wrestlers are still in their Speedos. Like they're not all like in a totally like old school wrestlers, you know, the bulky ones in their like Speedos. Like they look tough. Like now it's like a slimmer figure and everything. Like it's just like an interesting, there are touch points across all three of those things that I just mentioned. You know, like it's blurred.
Yeah, like I remember a friend of mine looking at a lot of like WWE stuff. Like in the shop that I worked in, we sold DVDs, WWE DVDs, right? And he looked at us and he just went, you know, and he was a very, very straight guy, like very straight guy, you know. And he was just like, how is this not gay? Like, tell me why this isn't gay. And I was like, well, I don't know, but like I take your point, but I'm sure that thousands of fans would say different. And you know, for some people that would be an almost troubling distinction to, or like a troubling connection to make. And there is some fascinating stuff there, but I don't know enough about it to be able to kind of make a judgment on it or to say, you know. And I think if you don't know, you should probably just shut up and know, I don't know. So and you know, I'll admit to not being a wrestling fan. Glam rock, I think I can take or leave some of it, although some of the music in this is kind of like, oh, actually, this is pretty good. And it's weird because if you listen lyrically to a lot of the songs that Peacemaker is listening to, they're very much the lonely guy who's been done wrong. You know what I mean? Like it's that sort of they're on that side of glam rock. They're not the you know, I'm going to go out and bang a load of chicks.
Beach, yeah.
They're very much, they're not Motley Crue.
Yeah.
It's like he's quite sad, plaintive,
that Faster
lonely
Pussycat
highway
song. Yeah, it's like
so like I think there's a lot of nuance in all of that, and it is fascinating to kind of look at those distinctions. And again, I don't know enough to be able to kind of say, well, it's this or it's that. But I suspect a lot of those cultures intermingle and cross, and whether you know it or not, because I'm not sure how many gay Kiss fans there are, but I suspect there's a few.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. There has to be, because you know what? I think that, so with all these things, I think even with wrestling, yeah, we'll just pinpoint Kiss, and we'll pinpoint the Boulay brothers, who is a very, it's a very, you know, open to the community, you know, the LGBTQ, all the letters, community. I don't want to misrepresent, but you know, or make,
I'll
you know,
profess not really knowing all the letters. I'm sorry,
but anyhow, I think that's nice though, that it can blend in there now. Now it is more open to that. People are, you know, it's coming together, and like it's not really like this is what this is going to be and this is what this is going to be, and you know, and like there are going to be the people that aren't going to be woke enough to continue to grow and accept that there have been people of all different types of sexuality in these areas forever.
Completely.
Now it's just more known. It's not, you know, like now people are learning that, like, oh, okay, so this has an arena for everybody, you know, and it's bringing togetherness to it. And back to Peacemaker, as far as, you know, this conflicting, like he's tough, but he's emotional at the same time. And like, you know, the vigilante relationship is questionable, you know, like all these little things, like I think it's nice and it's progressive in how it's delivering it. You know, whether he's saying the wrong thing or they're trying to make him say a more accepting thing, you know, it's nice that it's pushing in the right direction. Is my takeaway from it.
And also even the characters that are kind of pushing for not political correctness, but like even Adebayo, where she's kind of saying to him, no, you've got to say this, and I'm gay, but it's this, and you've got to understand it's this, and da 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 da. Even she engages in her own form of, you know, when she talks about kung fu master, is it what's the judo master? Yeah. So she doesn't call him judo master. He's fantastic. Like I actually loved him, and I don't know if that guy is like just a very young guy and a short guy. He's really kind of, but she calls him Cobra Kai, and she kind of commits her own form of it's not racism, but it kind of is, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I mean everybody has the ability to give off that vibe, you know, because of not, like, I think that, you know, and again, I don't know if we want to push down this direction, you know, but I think if every culture and, you know, community understood that they have the ability to be, I guess, offensive to another, then they'll be a little bit more accepting. And I think the goal in general should be tolerant and like, you know, you want to be accepting. You don't want to say things that are going to be offensive to other people, but it's like identifying it as well and realizing we could all make mistakes that could offend somebody, you know, but you know, how you can identify, or even just being called out, or like, just, you know, this didn't make me feel good, or like, you know, stuff like that. And just like moving with it. And it's just, you bring a more tolerant society together with stuff like that.
Yeah. I think there are kind of things, and you know, you have that thing like with the two teenagers in the parking lot of the sort of 7-Eleven or whatever it is, where it's just like, well, you guys actually kind of deserved what you got, but at the same time you're still watching this sort of super dangerous person kick the shit out to teenagers who aren't really that dangerous.
Yeah.
Except maybe to themselves. And there is kind of that thing of but they did kind of deserve what they got because their attitude was kind of shitty. But he was a great character. And I love the constant kind of, he's escaped again.
Yeah. It's just
and it gets to the point where it's just like, well, we can't worry about it anymore. We've just got to move on.
Awesome character. I was happy with the diversity of like everything too, and like what was he supposed to be like shorter? Like again, I like that choice.
I think he's supposed to be tiny. Like I think Judo Master in the Judo Master in the comics. Judo Master in the comics is a kind of character of average stature to other comic characters, but
I think that's so smart to do that. You get so much diversity in like the writing and who you're representing. I just think it's interesting, and from the standpoint, again, I don't know like the history of all these characters, but like I think that's ahead of its time to do that. Like,
I think one of the weird things about Judo Master is he's one of the few characters in the thing who is not going through a transformation. He is what he is.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of exemplified in the fact that you never learn his real name.
Yeah.
He never takes off his outfit. He just spends all his time in that the chips.
Or the Cheetos.
Flicking the
it's so good.
And he's that's just like, all right, you don't have to be a dick about it. Like, it's just like
that's a good point. Yeah. The only person that was 100% comfortable with who they were, and like that's it. Take it or leave it.
I think it'll be interesting to see more. And of course, we end up at the end of the series with like the Task Force X cover is completely blown. Amanda Waller's been outed by her own daughter, and there's where does that leave us to go next? And it's just like, well, I hope wherever they go next, they're going to go there with those characters, because I think it must have been a pleasure for the writers to write for those characters. And I think James Gunn directed like an awful lot of this series. Like I think he did something like 6 out of 8 episodes or 4 out of 8 episodes, which is quite a lot. And I would love to see more. Like I'd love to see either another Suicide Squad movie or more Peacemaker. And I always feel like for comics, the TV stuff should be the kind of continuous stuff, and then the movie should be the events.
Yeah.
And I really like the idea that we might get this kind of, further down the line, we might get another kind of event from these characters. Like I just loved it. I really loved it. And I was really kind of thrilled to watch it and take a look.
Yeah, me too. I want more of this, and I want the same characters. Like I'm fine to put in other ones, like as long as this core is here, because they have really great chemistry, and like that really came across. Loved all those jokes. They're just so funny. Like Vigilante calling, "Hey P, it's V," like, and then he calls back later, "Hey, I just realized that might have come across like penis and vagina." Like,
and again, that speaks to their relationship. That speaks to the possibility that their relationship might be something. I mean, I don't really see Christopher growing in that way enough to kind of experiment. But it's kind of.
I see him more. If you're gonna, since you said it, I see him more in the realm of experimenting than Captain America.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting. The whole thing was just so funny, and there's so many subtle little jokes just throughout the whole thing. you only really catch it all like if you watch it a second or a third time.
Yeah,
like
I mean, I do want to
so
try
good.
and catch it a second time because it was so worth the time. And I'll tell you how much I enjoyed it. I've for various reasons, partly just I've been too tired and too busy. I've held off watching this until I knew we were definitely going to do the pod, because we were going to do it a few weeks ago and for some reason we couldn't. I can't remember what it was, but I think I wasn't organized enough to
no, it was totally my fault.
No, not at all. I didn't mean like at
it was
all.
A concert
I think
yeah.
no. But I mean, there's been various times where we've wanted to do this, and for one of us or the other, it hasn't been a good time. But I watched this in 2 days. Like I think I went through every single episode very fast in the least amount of time possible, and was just laughing my ass off the whole time, and just loved but it lent itself to kind of binge watching 2 or 3 at a time. I think I got through the first 4 in one evening.
I believe it, because I think I did the same thing over here too. Like when it first came out, it was so easy to watch, but like it wasn't like you weren't thinking the whole way through it too. Like some of those shows, you're just watching one after another and it's kind of mindless. Like this, like it was just so quick, and like it was such a relief. I mean, this is really stand out for me from a lot of stuff that I've seen, especially in like a comic book kind of world. Like I think this was definitely elevated.
Absolutely. I mean, not every comic book should be done this way.
Yeah.
But it for this particular thing, I think because there's so little about that particular character out there, it's very easy to adapt it into that.
Yeah.
And I think you can find out with characters who haven't been used for a while. Batman is not a character that kind of lends itself to comedy. Yeah, it doesn't. Although I've seen comedic takes on Batman. Like there was a great comic called Wonder Twins.
Oh,
that's worth looking at if you get a chance. Like the most recent series of Wonder Twins, and Batman pops up in that from time to time, and that was, he recounts this agonizing thing from his high school years, and it was just hilarious.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Like it's completely out of character for the Batman that we know, but it's there, and I think that's worth tracking down. So if you get a chance to take a look at that, like do take a look, because that's really funny. But yeah, like Mickey, thank you for doing this, man. Like I'm really glad you came on and did this, and you're going to be back in a week or two. We've got another show coming up together, which I hope is going to be people are going to enjoy. We'll be looking at another movie. I'm not going to say which one just yet, but we'll be looking at another movie. But yeah, I mean, I hope we can have you on more this year, because I really missed doing the pods with you last year, and we didn't get to do. We did some at the beginning, but we didn't get to do many sort of in the middle or the end, I think. So I hope we can do some more. Is there anything else you want to say about the show before?
No, I think we hit on it. I like feel bad if people haven't seen it that are listening to this right now. I don't want to ruin it for them either. But
I think we're past the arena for spoilers just because it's been on for so long.
Yeah,
this is very much a late one for us, and we did want to come to it earlier, but due to the kind of conflict of release dates and our own kind of time, we just couldn't do it. But we wanted to do it because it was fun. It was a fun show, and I think we found some interesting things to take a look at. And sorry if anyone's like sort of, I hope no one's offended by the stuff we've talked about in this, and we certainly don't mean it from the point of view of trying to give offense. I think we're all learning. It is the important thing. And I think the show is about that. It's about what it's like to be one thing and having to learn to live in a world where other people are different, and to kind of treat those people with compassion and a bit of understanding. And
I think that's a really good. I think that's a good point to make. Yeah, because it's coming from a good place, and from the standpoint of the more in the light, I think people have discussions about things like that are kind of like hard or maybe uncomfortable to talk about. It makes it more accepting in general for other people that, you know, maybe aren't as open-minded to just like hear it and, you know, it, you know,
completely.
Yeah, and like, while I can only speak from a woman's perspective, white woman's perspective, you know, like those are the things I'll identify. But I still think it's important for you as a white male as well, you know,
and aging. We should hit this point. An aging white male.
No, but from the standpoint of just because we're only identifying with those groups, I think it's still important to make sure we highlight others as well.
And I think the show does that, and I think it's worth your time, because you will hear things in it that are offensive, but you'll also hear people kind of go, no, that's wrong, and here's why that's wrong. And I don't think at any stage you're meant to. Although I was laughing at it, I think what you end up laughing at is the fact that in 2021 or 2022, in the case of by the time we watched it, people are still holding kind of those views, and it's just like, you know, for God's sake, come on, man. I don't think you're ever meant to laugh along.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, it's not directed to make people feel like uncomfortable in that way. It's
no.
fun at it.
No.
100%.
It's a really good. It's a really good show, and definitely one I think people should take a look at if they're not already, and I'm sure you will be. So it's on Now TV in the UK, HBO Max in the US. You can get that if you've got those streaming services. Nikki, if people want to take a look at your stuff, where can they do that?
Behance is my art portfolio, so that's the only avenue for me now. So that's all my art stuff. So Larry's on behance.net.
Awesome. So Larry the Predator. I will actually get out. I did get it out the other day. The very lovely piece of art you gave.
Oh, good. He's drinking his tea.
Yeah. I know. I've got the surfing one. I think.
I'll give you the surfing one. Yeah.
Yeah. So Nikki gave, as I always say, Nikki gave me this lovely little Larry the Predator. And I will get that out next time and try and put it up on screen for people. But yeah, if you want to check out Nikki's art, can people check out your music anywhere? Because I know you.
I'm on Apple Music and Spotify as well.
And
so Slanted Line.
Slanted Line, excellent.
Yeah.
So you can take. I'll stick links because I think Nikki has actually sent me links to all that stuff. But if she hasn't, I'll get her to email me them, and I'll put it all in the description below. I think I've still got to update the contributors page on the website. To have your correct information on, because I'm very slow and lazy. I'm sorry. But Nikki, it's been great talking to you again, and thank you so much. You can check out our most recent podcast with Nikki before this, which was the Batman with Nikki, Liz, and Rob Deb. It was great having all those guys on. Again, the gold standard will be getting us all together for one podcast. I would love to have everyone on at once. It'd be great if everyone was in the same country just once. Like, I would love to do that. But,
really. All over the place.
Yeah, sadly we didn't get to do it. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching. Remember to check out the Patreon, check out the website, of course, where you'll find comic reviews and all kinds of comics related and movie related stuff on there. Nikki, thank you so much for giving me your time today.
Thank you so much. And I'll just close you out here.
Go on.
Bye.
In no way have we infringed copyright. I hope.
2 seconds.
Guys, catch you next time on The Crush. Nikki, thank you so much for being
you.
on. This has been 24 panels per second, and we'll be back soon with a new